Welcome back to another episode of Dub and Trey. Today we have another special guest, Mr. Bryan Swann. Bryan, you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing. Bryan Swann here, born and raised Prince George's County, Largo
Yeah.
alumni, University of Maryland alumni. I've been an investor, an entrepreneur in a lot of different industry sectors, executive in companies. My background is really just business, business in all its ways and really investing. And I think my passion is just really around helping people reach their dreams and their goals with some really kind of some fundamental principles that you can really apply to anything that you want to do, not just in business, but just in life. And so just really happy to be here. I'm sure we'll dive into, different parts of my experience and how we can leverage that as a community, right? Because I really believe it's all about community, doing the best we can. You can't do anything alone. So that's what I'm about. Happy to be here. Let's jump right in, man.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you.
Yes, sir. Ryan touched on a couple things the last episode about personal finances. I think what me and Trey was talking about offline with you is maybe getting into some
Mhm.
entrepreneurship things to kind of bring it back
Mhm.
full circle. So if you want to go ahead and we can jump into this, yeah, man, the floor is yours.
All right, awesome. I'll tell you, man, entrepreneurship is really what this country is supposed to be built off of. You know what I mean? If you really go back to what the founding of America, quote unquote, is about entrepreneurship, right? And it's unfortunate that it's not taught um, early and often in most people's lives, right? Most people are really taught to have a job, work, and then that job really just becomes like modern day slavery, right? Like you just make enough to feed your family, put your kids through school. Next thing you know, you're so old and so tired you can't even really enjoy life, right? I think entrepreneurship is freedom, right? Like an entrepreneur, it gives you the power to live the life you want to live at your own creation, right? But I think there's some things and principles that you got to really understand about entrepreneurship so that you can be successful and obviously, don't make the mistakes that previous people had. But entrepreneurship is something that you got to believe in first. You know what I mean? It's a mindset first before it's something that you got to do, right? Because you got to have the attitude and the action, right?
Hmm.
To be a true entrepreneur, you got to have the mindset or what we like to call the soft skills and the hard skills, right? Soft skills is like the emotional intelligence, right? The hard skills are like your whether it's academic intelligence or business intelligence or whatever your craft intelligence, right? You got to have both of those, in my opinion, to be entrepreneurship, and that's what we really try to kind of teach and focus on. That's what we apply in all the business ventures and investments that we do and have done.
I got a question about that. So somebody working a regular 9 to 5 for say 10, 15, 20 years, how would they break away from that mindset?
First thing I would say is understand like we are given this false sense of security, right? Like if you really break down the system, the capitalistic system that we have here, right?
Hmm.
It's built off this false sense of security where you go to school, you get a job, right? You work for some company, right? You build some retirement, and right, that's the goal. But as we all have seen, especially these last 2 years, things can change, economies can change, jobs change. A lot of people lost their jobs overnight, and so you realize that a lot of people have this mindset that as an employee that you're secure, right? And as an entrepreneur, you're at risk, right? Because you don't know where your next check is going to come up. You can't just show up to work, right, and do kind of the bare minimum and get the check and you're comfortable, right? And I think you mentioned this in your one of your previous episodes, Trey, about being comfortable, right? And if you can't, if you the moment you stay comfortable, you can't learn, you can't grow. The entrepreneur has a growth mindset, which is like always
Got
growing.
you.
Like your everything about you is growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. I mean, if you think about like us at a very biological level, right? Like you're never really stagnant, right? It's either you're growing or you're dying, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just a very slow process, right? But you're always moving, right? Life is always moving in one direction. And the entrepreneur looks at, a true entrepreneur looks at that growth mindset. And so that's the first thing. You got to have a growth mindset. How can you grow? Right. And the second thing is don't underestimate yourself, right? Because people have this fear that oh, if I go out and be an entrepreneur, what if I don't get customers, or what if they don't like my post, or what if I don't get the traction that I'm looking for? You start all these doubts and next thing you know, you psych yourself out of winning. Like you already lost before you even started, right?
Mm.
Like if you ever play sports, like you can't go into the game thinking that you're going to lose, right?
Right.
You got to go into the game knowing that you're going to win. That if God put it in your heart and your mind to do this business, right? It's already great, right? It's already has greatness. It's that the stamp is there. You know what I mean? And so first we got to get that into our spirit, right? Because the moment you can speak that law of attraction, the moment you can speak that confidence, right? And if you don't know what the law of attraction is, like I encourage you to, look at the secret, because it's real. Like the glass is always half full and half empty. It doesn't ever change, right? It all depends on how you look at it. Some people see challenges, other people see opportunities, right? Some people see strengths, other people see weaknesses, right? It's always going to be that mentality of your perspective is your reality,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
However you perceived it or perceive it is your reality, right? And so that's what I try to when Ryan and I we do sessions and we mentor and we have entrepreneurs who are just starting out. The first question I ask, tell me how you thinking, right? Because we can work all the mechanics of your business. That's the easy part,
Right.
right? It's the mind that's hard, right? Because you got to untrain yourself, right? Just imagine if you've been in business or been in a job for 15, 20 years, or even 10 years, or even 5 years, right? And you've been taught this employee mindset that you got a boss you got to answer to, that tell you when to come, when to go. Here's the list of everything you got to do every day, right? Here's your report card, and let me evaluate you at the end of the year and decide whether you get more money or less money, right? When you can go take vacation, right? Right? All this stuff is all in this structure. And now entrepreneur, none of that is there. It's a blank slate. To some people, that's great. To other people, that's frightening. So having that mindset, right, I think is critical. And then you form a plan, right? You form a team, you form a plan, and you execute, right? But I think the latter three are somewhat, I wouldn't say they're elementary, but they could be very straightforward. That first one could be very challenging for people, right? So first is get your mind right. You know what I mean? Like you got to get your mind right and understand that you are greatness. And I think what I have found is that a true entrepreneur will be able to, once they're comfortable enough with their own capabilities, right? They're not afraid to take those chances. They're not afraid to take that risk. They're not afraid to make that investment that you got to make. They're not afraid to go in front of that investor and say, hey, give me $50,000 and this is what I'm going to do with it, right? Or go to that bank and get that loan if they have credit, like you guys talked about on one of your episodes. You have to get to this place where you can truly leverage what this country has to offer. Is there one of my mentors just said to me the other day, it's like, listen, America is great, right? Freedom is great. They're just not giving it out for free. Like you gotta go get yours, right? You gotta take it. But
You
this
got to be
country,
fearless.
you gotta be able to take what you feel is yours and do the work that you need to do to get there. It's available, but they just not giving it out for free. And the employee mentality gives you like this entitlement. Oh, you do this much and you want this much, you want this much worth of gratitude and income and it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen. So I think that's your first breakthrough, is getting your mind right. You know what I mean? Is understanding that mentality that you got to have, going into it.
Great information. Great information. So with that being said, The next phase, let's get right into it. The
Yeah,
next phase of once you've broken that mentality, you have this mentality of being fearless and understanding what's happening in America today.
yeah.
What's the next phase when you're talking about putting it to action?
Put into action. Yeah. It's the three P's, man. The three P's, and I throw an extra D on it, man. And so this is what it is. You got to have the right people, process, product, and data. If you have those four things, right, you can do anything. And so let me just briefly, real quick, jump into what these are. People, your most critical person, and that's why the mindset is so important, right? Because whenever you start in a business, you can have the best idea, you can have the greatest product, right? But if you got the wrong people at the helm, if you got the wrong people on your team, nothing will get done. This is why the best ideas are right now in the graveyard, right? They
Mm,
in somebody's head, and this person had this great idea, never got past themselves or got the right team, and great ideas. There's tons of them in the graveyard because the first P is so important,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's people are the hardest thing because we're so complex and emotional, and the society we live in and all the challenges it gives us, right? You got to get the right people on your team, right? And I think you guys talked a little bit about this at your last episode, which is just about that growth mentality, and if you are around people and you are the most successful person on your team, right, or the people that you hang around the most, then you gotta start hanging around some other people, not to knock the people that you've been hanging out with, but you gotta put yourself in a growth environment, and you're not going to do that if you are the one that's always the most successful person in the room,
hmm
right? And so your start your businesses first. Do you got the right people for that business, right? And that's whether you decide whether you get partners, right? As you start building your first core team, your advisors, right? And how you build that. Do you have the right people on the team? It's just so critical, right? The second one is process. Once you got the right people, you can put the right process in place. It's this old saying that, like, the word system, you need a system. Well, system is an acronym for saving yourself time, energy, and money. If you have
Wow.
a system in place so that
Repeat
you
that.
can, yeah. So system is an acronym for saving yourself time, energy, and money, right? Once you can be the right person, and it's great, right? But your business never really scales up because you don't got the right system. So you got this great
Mm.
product, you got this great idea, you got the right mindset, but you can't get it to scale. You can't get to that 100,000 million followers on Instagram. You can't get to your product stock in Costco, right? You can't get
Mm,
to why? Because you don't have no system, right? You gotta engineer it, right? To say, okay,
hmm
all right, if today Home Depot wants to put my product in their stores and they tell me I need to have 100,000 of them,
hmm
right? What's your system? Or if an investor, you got somebody interested in, they love your idea. They say, listen, Bryan, you great, you this and that. You the right person. You got the P. Tell me your process, Bryan. If I give you this $50,000, how you going to put just 50,000 into your system, right? That
Right.
will create your product and get it to customers. And so you got to think about systems. And depending on what business you in, obviously, there's a lot of different systems. And I think if you think of each person as their own individual business, I love what you guys talked about with Ryan about Mint.com. That was a system that you put yourself in, right? So that you can maximize your own financial kind of business of yourself, right? It's a system, right? You say, all right, I'm gonna use this app, I'm gonna flow all my data through here, I'm gonna track stuff, I'm gonna flag stuff, boom, 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 right? And that's your system. You didn't just start saying, oh, I'm just gonna do it any old kind of way. No, you plug into a system, it's gonna save yourself time, energy, and money. Just like with Mint.com, every business should have a system. What is your system of things that you got to do repetitively? You got to do them over and over and over and over again. Um, that's the things that you got to do for the system. So you got first one's people, Second one is process. Third one is product, right? That's like your idea, like whatever your product or service is that you are going to produce. You got to make sure it's going to stand up to the market, right? You got to understand that it's competition out there. How does your product compare to the next person, right? How does your design compare to the next person? Who are your competitors, right? And how do they sell? Like you got to know the landscape of your business to know what your product is, right? And a lot of times people, I tell people, and this is where the data, the D comes in, right? And you go to a lot of business schools and entrepreneurs, they'll tell you, okay, give me your 3 Ps. Tell me about your people. Tell me about your process. Tell me about your product. You can prove me on those 3 things that you got the right people with the right mindset, and they got that ethic and they growth and they want to hustle. Great. You got a good system that you can scale up. Great. You got a great product that's innovative, disruptive, hopefully even, or just you got a great niche, right? Great. Those are all great things for products because it creates a moat around you so your competitors can't get into your niche space, or your competitors is hard to duplicate, or maybe you got a patent. If you're an engineer, you got a patent on something. That's a great thing to have for your product. The D is data, right? The data is like, give me the data on all this stuff. People like to say, oh, listen, I got this great product. People are liking it. And I ask you all the time, this is the first, after we get past the people, the first question I ask is, have you talked to your customers? Right? Because we like to think, especially like our founders of companies or creators, that our stuff is great, and it is great. But that doesn't mean the people that you're trying to sell it to think it's the same level of great that you think of it. And so you gotta check that. Like right. It's almost like you got to be willing to check. You got to be willing to just do a pulse check. And not only a pulse check just on is your product right, but what price should you be selling it for? Right? Like, are you underselling yourself? Are you overselling? Are you selling it too cheap? Like if you got a great book and people willing to pay $60, $70 for this book, and you selling it for $20, like, how would you even know that? You know what I mean? Like that's a part of your process, but it's about data. You got to start collecting data on your business and your customers. I mean, that's what they do when you go on Facebook. You Googling things, you spending money on Amazon. They collecting data on you all, so they know when to sell, how to sell, the things you like. The blueprint works, right? That's why the biggest companies in the world right now, right, are the companies that we all use, because they collect data. Every business uses data. That's why I throw the D in there, because you got to have that mindset. You got to have a data-centric mindset. Your business should be data-centric, which means that you just don't want to go and just start selling product. You want to go and sell product, but also collect information about your customers. What products they like, how often they buy your stuff. This is going to help you improve your customer retention. It's going to help you improve how much money you earn per customer. You know what I mean? Like, is it the customer just buys one product, or can you get them to buy more product? Like, at the end of the day, you have to collect that data and be thinking about that as you're starting your business, right? Because that will go into your process. That's going to go into your product development. That's going to go into the people that you select on your team. It's such a critical piece that you gotta highlight it. You gotta highlight that the 3 Ps at the base of it, right, is the D, is the data. You need data to support it all, and that's kind of the thing we run through with entrepreneurs, just to give them like a kind of a blueprint to say, okay, let me kind of start jotting this stuff down and work through this stuff. Who are the people? What I'm about? Who my team? What's my process? What's my system? Right. How do I go from having nothing to having a product in a customer or a service in a customer hand? Everything that goes from A to Z, I need to map that out and figure out my bottlenecks. Right. Figure out how I can scale it. And then that third P, is the product. Is the product quality? Is it, what are my competitors? How do I price it? And all that. And your underline is data. if you don't have the data, you just shooting blind. You know what I mean? That's why they say ready, aim, fire, right? You get ready, then you aim. Your aim is like you calculating the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a windy day? Do I need to adjust? Am I
Right.
elevated and I gotta shoot down? Like you gotta aim and fire, right? And some people believe you ready, fire, and then go back
You
and
just
aim,
shoot the shit
right?
and see what happens.
And you know, and see what happens. I get that. I'm not knocking that, but at some point you got to collect some data. Like if you wanna win, right, and you want to keep winning, right? You may get lucky on that first shot, but the next shot, try to shoot at some dead after you done made one
After
shot.
you made the first shot.
They all gone, bro. If you may have got one, but the whole flock of dead, them jokers is gone, bro. They gone.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of that framework. You know what I mean? That any entrepreneur, if you walk yourself through that, you'll quickly see where you need more focus on versus the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the 3 P's, you know, with the D, man, that's what I tell people, man.
I think that was remarkable. So I'm gonna go back to the first P of people, right?
Yeah.
And for those who may think they want to be entrepreneurs, right? How does a person go about building that people part? Because a lot of folks out there, all they have are their friends or people they know who they might trust, but might not be good business-minded people. People get into businesses, they have great ideas, but they bring in friends and they bring in people they absolutely trust emotionally. In your experience with your entrepreneurial journey and working with other entrepreneurs, how does a person get past that when like how do they meet those people? How do they create those contacts? How do they network to get those people where they're not just relying on friends who just don't know what the hell they're doing, right?
Yeah, we tell people, man, your net worth is your net worth, right? We say that all the time. And again, this goes back to that growth mentality. Like the first thing you got to do is start surrounding yourself around other people, and you do that by going to conventions. You're doing that by networking with intention, right? You know, asking those 4 or 5 people that maybe your closest friends, hey man, who are the 5 most successful people that you know? Right? Outside, don't kiss it to me. Who are the 5 people, best friend Bill, my uncle, hey uncle, who are the 5 most successful? And you start generating a little list. But all these successful people that got named are 1 degree from you. Right? So you can say, hey, best friend, you mentioned this person that's in real estate or this person that does this, that, and other. Can you do a soft introduction to, I just want to ask them some questions about business, about investing, about X, Y, and Z, right? That's one easy way that you can start building kind of this 1 degree from you of successful people, or at least your 1 degree told you that they looked at them like that person. Hey, that person is successful. I know he or she is rocking. Like this somebody you may want to meet, and just be very intentional about that, right? Other ways you can just get involved with other type of at-home businesses, right? And I know people want to knock it, because it's not, but I'm gonna tell you, Ryan and I had a lot of success with it, and that's with network marketing. There's a lot of different people that come through network marketing from all different backgrounds that do a lot of different things. And while network marketing may not be your goal, right, it can certainly lead you to people that have all types of other ventures, whether they're investors, whether they are, like I say, real estate, whether they are, have, IT companies or whatever the case may be. Because an entrepreneur, somebody who's making money, typically wants to continue to make more money. So they're not going to typically just have one business that gives them one stream of income. They're going to have multiple streams of income, right? And so we got to get out of this mindset, like, if you're not attracting those type of people already, you got to put yourself in different environments to kind of swim with the big fish, right? Because obviously where you swimming at, there ain't no big fish, right? And so you gotta have that mentality coming in. But I think network marketing is one of those places where you get a lot of people with an entrepreneurial spirit trying to do something different, and there's a lot of different types of network marketing coming from Avon to Mary Kay to, Amway, and the list goes on and on. You find one that you like, and whether you really about that particular business or you really trying to network and build your network of people is another thing. And then also just connect with folks on LinkedIn. I tell entrepreneurs this: if you're not on LinkedIn, like, you're missing so much opportunity, because that's like where the super professionals and the venture capitalists and the hedge funds and all of them are there, right? And you can start to see where you have connections with folks, and what people have done and what people are doing. I think that information is so critical, right? Because then when you meet somebody and you say, oh, you meeting this person that you got, your network referred you to, that 1 degree said, hey, this is a successful person. But then you look that person up on LinkedIn and you can see their background, the things they did. And now you got a little bit more information to talk to that person about, right? I think that's another way that you can build your network. But one is asking, like I said, asking your network, give me 3 or 4, the most successful people that you know, that you personally know, right? 2, put yourself in different environments, and that's going to conferences, personal development conferences, and productions. I think is another one. Like, because people who go to personal development stuff, you could tell they're about investing into themselves and their psyche. And so when you talk to them, it's a very different conversation than when you go to like a Jay-Z concert. You know what I mean? You meet people. Like, it's a different. I love Jay-Z. I'll go to every Jay-Z concert, but I go there for a different reason than when I go to a personal development conference, right? And typically those type of conferences will have social events where you go and you just be yourself and talk and meet people, right? And start building your network. So I think that's critical. And then that last one is LinkedIn, man. Yeah. LinkedIn has a very different I think niche, right? In social media, right? Because it's very one is very professional oriented, but 2, it keeps folks honest, right? So if your profile says something that you really didn't do, or that you didn't go to, you didn't go to that particular school, whatever the case, like it'll start to your network will start to correct it, right? It's crazy how LinkedIn can be used, but like I said, it's a good data point for you to find people that maybe 1 or 2 degrees from you that may be in the sector or in the industry that you're looking for. Yeah. So those would be how I would start, building that network, and be a student. Don't be afraid to ask somebody to be your mentor, or can you have a 30-minute conversation and just ask some questions, or here's another thing I said, or help somebody else, right? If you find somebody that you aspire to be like, or is very successful, and they got a project going on, find a way to be able to contribute to that person's goal, right? And say, hey, I work for free, or hey, here's some information, or here's some research I did that may help. Like, you gotta understand that it goes both ways. You can't always come to the table wanting, right? You gotta also say, I have a lot to give, right? And here's how I can serve, right? And I think people don't have that in mind. Understand that you got to invest into your network. Just like if you want your network to invest into you, you got to invest in your network. So you got to help others. You got to support others. And in the process of it, you're going to get everything that you need as well. So
that's right.
Those would be how I would get started to build that network out, so that, and that's something that you should start regardless if you got a business idea right now or not, right? Like building your network should be something that you kind of already started when you was in like grade school, right? People, like you kind of know from school, like who was kind of doing this and who was kind of doing that. Like, you just now going to be very intentional about it, right? And keep that going on as you go through life. Right? As you go through a job, people at your job, who the good ones, who the bad ones, who the strong ones, who the ones that, you really don't care less what they're doing, right? Because you know what they're about, right? But there's always one or two or three from a job, right? That you should probably put in your network because they movers and shakers. They got a good mindset. They're good leaders, or they're good workers and they get stuff done, right? Because you never know one day where you'll be and you'll be like, you know what, I need a grinder. Like who is that person I was working with that's a grinder? That person just gets it done. Like, you don't gotta call that person to remind them. They always punctual, they always on time, they did it right. I tell people all the time, you gotta always build your network and always represent who you are, right? Because other people are doing the same thing. So wherever you are, show up, right? Because when you show up, people will remember it, right? And you'd be surprised how many opportunities you'll get. You know what I mean? When people know what you're about and your work ethic, right? So those are some ways that I would, that I've done and what I've, encouraged others in our workshops that, to do.
Right.
So
I think something you said that hit the nail on the head was people's assumption of what the word networking means. I've been to many events, not even formal, just informally. You talk to people about networking and they believe it's about finding someone that can do something for them. Very rarely do people understand that networking is almost mostly about helping others, telling people what you can do for them so that maybe in turn they can do something for you. It's not all about being a taker, right? And I've met many people whose version of networking is, what do you do? Where do you do it? And if you can't do anything for me, I'm moving on and the conversation is sort of dead, right?
Right.
So I thought that was a very strong point.
You bring this word to my mind is authentic, right? Like to be to really build your network, you got to be authentic,
right,
in your conversation. I mean, you got to be genuinely interested, right, in what that other person is doing, right? Not because you got your own agenda, right? And I think that's the mindset. You got to be authentic, right? Especially if you expect that same authenticity to come back to you, right? If that person is inquiring about your business, right, you want them to be authentic about their inquiries. They're willing to support, right? Whether if they're going to be an investor or customer or help you spread the word, whatever it is, you want them to be authentic in their conversation with you about your stuff, right? So you have to be authentic the other way, right?
Definitely. And this one of the last points I'll make about the people part. In my experience, I don't know if you've seen this, maybe you can validate this. In my experience, I've seen people who want to be entrepreneurs, they fail because either one, they don't know how to communicate with people very well. And I don't even mean just speaking English. I mean, they don't know how to communicate, right? They don't know how to move their idea from their mind into words to explain to people what they do and what they can do, right? The first thing I've seen. The second thing I've seen is people with really big egos where they can't understand when you're telling them that maybe the thing they're selling or the service they're providing is not to the level of which they think they are selling it at or pricing it at. And in today's term, people call that hating, right? Oh no, you're just hating on what I'm trying to do. And those two things, I think, have killed so many entrepreneurs, at least in the African American community. The inability to communicate and too much ego, right?
Too much ego. Yeah. Entitled. Yeah. I'll tell you, to the latter point, data. I tell people, in God we trust. Everybody else has to have data. Like that's just what it is. So when somebody says to me, "Oh, yeah, I can make this product. Oh, it's going to sell for $100. Oh, I'm gonna sell it for $250," and I say, "Oh, okay, that's great. Have you checked with your customers? How many customers have you surveyed, and what did they say they was willing to pay?" You know what I mean? And not the knocking that you could probably sell. You
Right.
probably can't sell them, but can you sell hundreds of thousands or hundreds of thousands of them at that price? Like, what data do you have? Right? And
Man.
that's the beautiful thing about data. It keeps you honest. Like, numbers don't lie. Right? And so if you could say, oh, if you could say, hey, listen, Bryan, we surveyed out in my target market, my target demographic, you know, and we polled 500 people, and the
Right.
average willingness to pay was $2.99, and we signed it for $1.99 just to make sure like we well below what people expect. Then hey, I'm game all day, right? Because now you telling me you did that work versus you just thinking, like, to your point, D, right? Like, I'm gonna sell it because that's what I think is worth, and
That's what it's worth to me.
that's what I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make sure I make money, and that's what it is, right? But that doesn't mean the market. Like, what does the market say, right? And so I think that's a huge. But as far as to your former, the ego part, like that goes that, and this is why most businesses will fail, right? That's just reality, right? Or most won't scale to where it's life changing, right? There may be some value there, but it really won't scale up because of people's ego, right? And it takes a lot of an entrepreneur to say, hey, listen, I can't do everything, right? I'm not trying to do everything, right? I know what my strengths are, and I know what my weaknesses are, and you got to build a team to help make sure that your weaknesses don't tear your business. I mean, that ruin your business or your business fail because you too proud to say, all right, I can't articulate this, so I need to get somebody who's very charismatic and can present and can like put everything I'm trying to do in like 3 slides and say, in 10 minutes, boom, 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 here's what it is. You either in or you out. Like, and I deal with founders like that all the time that, especially like the engineering type, right? The scientist type, right? They typically don't like the
To the
road
point.
shows,
Yep, they to the
right?
point.
Where, right. They don't like they give a lot of detail, and most people get lost in the detail. No, every business will need some type of communication strategy. In the beginning, obviously that's the founder, the entrepreneur, but as your business grows, you gotta pick about a streamlined system, right? Like, what's your system for that, right? Especially if you're not good at it, right? If that's not your thing, then you're going to need somebody, or bring on a partner, or staff someone if you got the revenue to pay a salary, right? To do it. You know what I mean? But it goes back to that mindset, right? If you can't have an ego and have a growth mindset at the same time, like you just those just contradict themselves, right? You know. Now I will say this: there are some cases where there's anomalies, right? There's people that have that huge ego and do phenomenal things. So I don't want to like give this for saying that you can't win if you got an ego. Yeah, you can win, but your chances are the chances are likely that you're not, right? It's just but I do think there's a level of confidence. There's a level of I forget that word, that swagger that you got to have, right? To push through. But there's a difference between like having that grit mentality than not being able, than having an ego, right? And so
definitely thank you for that great information. I wanted to also ask you another question about entrepreneurship. I mean, if I wanted to get started, people create corporations, people create LLCs. How would I go about doing that? And how would I go about establishing myself in my state? What are some of the key steps that I need to do if I wanted to go about doing that? Assuming that I had these things that you talked about previously before. I have my network, I have my people, I have my process, I have all of these things, and now I really wanna bring this to the industry. From my experience, creating an LLC or a corporation or a partnership are some of the key steps. But I think there's a little bit more information that people may want to hear about the details of that and how it can also benefit you when it comes to taxes as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great question. I think the first thing you got to folks need to understand is the reason why you want to do this, right? Once you get to a place where you're ready to pull the trigger and you're ready to get out there, and you got everything in place, the reason that you want to do some type of entity primarily is for two reasons. One, liability. Two, taxes. Liability just simply means is if something goes wrong with your business, say you got a catering business and somebody gets sick from your food, and they come and sue you. If you want them to take not only your business but also
Your
like your
house, your
personal
home,
assets, your personal
everything.
home, your everything, they come after everything. Then don't have an entity, right? The entity allows you to keep the business assets and the business liability separate from your personal liability and vice versa. So say you driving your kids to school one day, you get in a car accident, hit somebody. If you don't have a business entity, when they go to sue you because of something you did personally, they can come after your business assets because your business is not in a business entity, right? So understand, by having the entity, it keeps everything separate. Your personal stays your personal, your business stays your business. Something happens in your business, it don't hit your personal, and vice versa. Something happen in your personal, it don't hit your business, right? So understand why you want to establish an entity. One. Two, taxes, right? The tax code is something that as a business owner, you just got to get a little comfortable with because it's to your advantage. It is written for employers. The reason why Warren Buffett paid less tax than most Americans in this country is because the tax code is written for employers, not employees. So as a business owner, you benefit. And here's the main reason why you benefit. When you're a business owner, you get money coming in, and then you get to deduct all your expenses that you had to spend to make that money. And then you pay taxes on whatever left, right? Very simple. Money comes in, you had to invest money or spend money to make that money, so you get to get all that money back, and then whatever's left over, that's what you pay taxes on. Well, as an employee, you make money, you pay taxes on the money you make, and then whatever's left over, you cover your living expenses. Do you see the difference?
Right.
In one equation, you pay taxes at the end.
Mm-hmm.
On the other equation, as a person, as an employee, you pay taxes
right up front.
Okay, so you got to think about this, right? If Warren Buffett can say, "Listen, I make $1 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I spent 900 million to make that billion, right? So then I only pay taxes on that last $100 million, right? But say you were an employee and you made $1 billion for some corporation. They paid you $1 billion, right?
Woo.
You would pay taxes on the billion.
All of it.
First, right? And whatever's left over, all your living expenses, your mortgage, your car insurance, all that stuff got to be paid from what's left over. This is why you want to have your business income in a business, not as personal income.
Not tied up in personal.
That's right. Because you can deduct expenses before you pay
great
taxes.
Information.
Not after you pay taxes. Okay? This is why you create an entity. Now, there's a couple type of entities. Most common is the LLC, which stands for Limited Liability Company. Or a limited liability company, and it creates an entity. It doesn't take long to do. You can go right on the Maryland's website.gov site. If you Google create LLC in the state of Maryland, it'll take you right to the site. You fill out the form. You just check and make sure the name that you want is available. You paid a couple $100 fee. Explain what your business is going to do, right? And then they go through a process. It takes a few days, and then it's done. At the same time, you go on the IRS website and you get a EIN number, which stands for an employer identification number, right? EIN number, right? It's like your social security number for your business. you get that instantly, right? The moment you put that in there, check the name, make sure it's available. If it's available, you get the EIN number. Boom, you are now ready to be in business. Soon as that the state document clears, it takes usually about a week. Now you got your state document, you got your EIN number, you ready to go. You can go open a bank account, you can apply for credit, and you do it under your business name with your EIN number. And so now anything that happens in the business name happens within that entity, not as you personally. Now, you will be tied to that business entity because you are the owner or the founder or, whatever you want to call yourself for that business. But as liability and tax purposes go, the two things are separate. Oh, by the way, at the end of the year, just like you file taxes for your personal self, guess what? You got to file taxes for your business, right? It does the same thing. How much money you made? What were all your expenses, right? What's left over? And apply the tax rate to that. And there's a lot of other, I'm making it very simple, but just to give folks an overview of how it's structured. And there's software like TurboTax and all these things that make it really easy for you to do. But at the end of the day, you got to understand why you need to do it, right? Why is it important that you have an entity once you're ready to really get out there, right? Is because of liability and taxes. Those are your two things. Now, if you in a business that requires some type of license, like a barber, like an electrician, like a registered nurse, and you starting an at-home nurse practice or things that require a license, you got to get those licenses right before you in your business name, right, so that you can provide those services under your business name. Whatever that process is, I just throw that out there that you got to make sure you have that checked off, because otherwise, if it's a licensed profession or service that you're doing, right, or if it's a product that requires some type of registration with commerce or whatever, like if you're doing tobacco or cannabis or any of like those controlled products, like you got to go through whatever that process is to get your license to sell to the public. Then you do that as well. But you do that after you have created your entity and you got your EIN number and you register with the state. Now you're ready to go get whatever license, if there is a license, and then you got your license and now you're good to go. And you get insurance, right? You get liability insurance for your business, just like you have car insurance for yourself when you drive. So if something happens, like you're covered, well, same thing happens in your business. You can buy, and you should buy, general liability insurance for your business. So if something happens at your facility or in your whatever you're doing, your customers have a liability insurance to file a claim with a company. They go through their process. Your insurance company takes all that, and you don't got to worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely big, because so many times I've seen people go into their fields with great ideas and great work ethic and have a great process, but they never created the entity. They never took the step to create the entity. And then next thing you know, they got a partner, or they have a friend or a family member who goes and creates the entity for them, or goes and creates the entity on their own. And they've now reaped the benefits of that hard work. All you got to do is look around you. These stories happen all the time with restaurants, so it's really important that you document what you do and document your efforts. And like Bryan said, you need to establish your entity and going and doing these things that you may not even be familiar with. You may not even understand what these things mean, but you have to understand that creating your entity is one of those first steps that you need to do before you go out here and get to work. And that's to protect you and to protect the people around you. And like Bryan said, when you're dealing with the limited liability, you're separating your personal from your business. And those are critical.
Let me add something to that. Let me add something, because you just made me think of something else I should mention. Is that another reason why you want to to do this to your point, Trey, is legacy,
There you go.
right? If you don't create the entity and you build something in a brand that's great, you can never pass that to your children or whoever you want to leave that estate to, because there's nothing there. Not only does it, it protects your creation, but if you want to pass it on, you want that all that work. I mean, we talk about scaling your business and having all making all this money. Well, what good is it if you can't leave it to the next generation, right? Like how do you protect it so that if God forbid something happens to you, like your business should still be able to thrive.
Right.
But if it's not an established entity, like you haven't done the work to protect it, and because when you create that entity, you establish kind of the rules, you establish your operation, how your business is going to run. I encourage people all the time, like don't just think about the short game. Make sure you're thinking about the long game too, right? Because it's those choices that come and bite you later. You done made millions of dollars. Your business is doing 50 million a year, whatever revenue, and you have no control, right? Because and I tell people it's in the beginning, it's worth the extra money to, if you don't know how to do this yourself, is to get a lawyer. They'll pay them a couple $100 or $1,000, and they will go and help you establish everything that you need to do, get all your documents in order, and get it done. It's worth it. It give you the peace of mind.
That's right.
Get established. You have to. And I think a lot of times, like especially with the younger generation, they see the Instagram thing and the YouTube thing, and they just want to be quick to just duplicate that, right? Well, that is very fast, right? You still have liability. You still have, think about it. Before a couple years ago, you used to be able to upload on YouTube anything you wanted, right? Now, if you go and upload a video with music on it, right, to YouTube, like it goes through a check, and if the song it hears is copyrighted, which most songs are, right? It will flag you and say, well, before that, if an artist heard their song on a video, right, that got all these likes and is generating revenue because there's all these people following it, and the person who posted the video is getting royalty money from ads and whatever else, what do you think the person from that owns that song gonna do? They're gonna come at you. Right. If you post a picture, right, and you didn't get permission from the venue or the clothing line or the bottled water that you drink, like, you just think about it, right? There's liability everywhere, right?
Wow.
Right? And so if you don't protect yourself from day one, like you could be potentially hurting your upside later. Right, because those entities are not going to come after you when you only got 5 or 10 followers.
Yeah.
But once you got a 500,000 followers or 1 million followers, they're going to be very interested then, because you done did all the work and you didn't get their permission, and so now they can come after you for all types of reasons. So I like to say, like, just do it up front. No matter what you're doing, there's liability there, right? You may not know it, but it is. And if you don't know it, talk to somebody. Get a lawyer. Say, hey, listen, this is what I'm thinking about doing. How am I liable? And a lawyer will be able to quickly tell you, like, oh, did you worry about this? What about that? What about this?
Yeah.
What about that? And that's just good. That's just good business, So.
And this is not an option, my good people.
Yeah, not an option.
This is something that you have to do.
You got to do
or it is a setup. You are setting yourself up.
Yes, sir.
If you do not do this, what Bryan is telling you is not an option. This is something you must do.
Yeah.
This is all industries. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You need to establish yourself and you need to protect yourself. So that's what this show is about. We definitely about informing the people, and we about learning too, because it's always something that we can learn on this show. So that's great information.
And one more, because I love talking about this stuff, man. And don't think that you're limited to one LLC. You can have multiple LLCs that do different things. So case in point, say you got two properties, right? and you own one property and you put it in its own LLC, and you got another property, you put that in its own LLC. If something happens liability wise on one property, if they both was under the same LLC, right, then they share liability. Something happens to one, the person if you're at fault and they find you at fault, they can come after your other property. But if you got multiple LLCs, then each one is shared individually, just like an individual person. And so, or if you got multiple businesses, say you got more than one hustle, right? There's nothing that says you can have as many LLCs as you want or you feel that you need. Yeah. And so, you'll see that, especially with real estate. A lot of real estate folks who are in the real estate game, they know every property that they have typically is in its own LLC, right? And that way you keep the liability wrapped for that one property to that one property, and it don't spill over to your other properties or any other businesses that you got going on, because you're not just having one LLC and you putting all your businesses in one LLC. No. You separate it out where it makes sense, so that you don't have that risk.
There you go.
Especially if you're in real estate or like in food, because people have an upset stomach because they put too much seasoning, right? And they want to come at And so I just throw that out there because I should have mentioned that you can have multiple LLCs that do multiple things. There's no limit. The whole idea is that the entity itself is its own entity and can live in perpetuity, right?
And I'm glad that you've spent this much time on the liability part of entrepreneurship, because a lot of people, when they think about entrepreneurship and business ownership, they think about the money, they think about the income, and that's really the only piece a lot of people jump into to consider, what am I getting out of this? And I think is at some point they get to the point you're talking about, but I don't think many people start off thinking about the liability piece, versus I just want to make money. That's all I care
I'm just
about.
trying to make money.
I want to make money, right? I don't give a damn about filing an LLC. I don't care about paying no lawyer. I want to make the money. And they never consider the liability pieces and how to mitigate things up front. So that when it happens, I guess it's not a if, a when it happens, right? That you're already prepared for.
And I definitely think that's one of the things that we want to address on this show, is how to be proactive and stop and for us to stop being reactive. And creating an LLC is an action that shows that you're being proactive. And then also, Dub, to think about what you were saying about how people typically think about creating a company and the reasons why. That goes back to what Bryan, very few people think about that legacy. And I think people really need to key in on that. This idea, this LLC, this company, this organization that you're creating now could potentially give resources and benefits to your children's 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 children. Now, I say that, and I want you to think about what that can possibly mean for your family. And that's allowing children to, and they don't have to go into the actual company, but at least they can reap the benefits of it. Can you, Bryan, can you speak about a little bit of that real quickly, about legacy and trust when it comes to families and that kind of thing?
Yeah, legacy is huge, man. I mean, money, when you really understand financial literacy and understand the compound effect over time, the money that's made right now, what it's worth 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now is astronomical, right? You just look at the most wealthiest people in this country are people who come from money that their great grandparents or grandparents or however far you want to go back established trust, established entities that assets were put into and protected, that regardless of what happened to them or really any of their family members, that these assets, right, were always there. We always talk about understanding what assets and liabilities are, right? Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out your pocket. Now, some liabilities you got to have because that's just life, like, right? But you want to have more assets than liabilities, right? Get the things that keep putting money in your pocket and minimize as best as possible that you can have liabilities of things taking money out your pocket. And establishing your entity allows you to do that, right? And I know, like to your point, D, a second ago about people just want to they want to just make the money, right? And that's where people get in trouble, because then the tax man comes and say, hey, you didn't have this entity established. So all this bread that you made from your business, that's considered ordinary income.
That's personal
right?
taxes,
Right.
right?
So you that's personal tax. So you can't get all the deductions that you would have got. So guess what, man? You were supposed to put aside like 35%. You made that $100,000. So you on that $100,000, you owe IRS 35 grand off the break. So where's that 35 grand? You got that at the end of the year? Oh nah, that money's gone, right? Right. You know, and so that's how people get in trouble. Next thing you know, IRS is coming and seizing stuff, and you on the news, like, you know, and they putting your stuff up for auction to pay the tax bill, right?
Bad news.
I'm telling you, I've seen it. So it's crazy. Wow. It's crazy how it happens, right?
Wow.
And so at the end of the day, we got to get, as a community, got to get better at passing this information down and having this to be the conversations that we have around the dinner table, at the family reunions, right? Having business meetings and understanding that, like, once you get past the ego and you establish the entities, you really start to get structure and you get less of the drama. Because when you don't have the structure, people get drama. People want to say, oh, I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to that. No. When you have the structure in place, right, it's very clear how things can happen, how things transition, you know, through a trust. And, you know, taxes is your biggest bill in life. You're going to pay more in taxes than you pay for anything else, period. Right? That's just what it is. Right? And so
it's a hard ass reality, right? Yeah,
it's a harder. You're going to pay a lot of damn taxes, right? Even after you die, you're going to pay even more taxes, right?
That's right.
And so it behooves you, right? It behooves you to understand how these entities protect your assets, all the work you're doing, the money you making, and how you can transition that and continue to keep that in your family, right? And it's going to evolve, but you got to have those conversations with family early on. And you know, I like to give people the opportunity, right? You don't need your family to be all in your business, but give them the opportunity to invest, right? Before you go and get outside, give your family the opportunity. Notice how I said opportunity, right? Don't let your business depend on your family funding it, right? But give them the opportunity to say, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing. Here's my plan. Here's my 3 Ps. Here's my data, right? I'm about to go kill it. I established my entity, and I'm giving y'all the opportunity before I go to anybody else first. This is what I'm doing. You want in? Here's what it is, right? And so that helps with those conversations later on. You grow your business and your family, like, oh, why didn't you come to us, or why didn't you tell me? Did it right now? Like you gotta get ahead of that, right?
Right.
But Trey, to your point about the trust, man, having a trust, and most of you, if you don't know what a trust is when you basically have an entity that is going to function. You can still control it, but it's going to function in a way that is meant to outlive you, right? And because of that, it has all these benefits, tax breaks, and all these different things that you don't get even as a regular LLC, as a regular incorporation that you get. And so I could spend a whole another hour on
you coming back for that, baby.
And why that's important. Yeah, because that's that conversation. Like, all right, I got my business going. I'm starting to make bread. Like, I got my things established. Like, how do I make sure I protect this? Like, God forbid something happened to me or happened to my family. Like, you start to get into this conversation about longevity and legacy. And that's where your estate planning comes into. That's where insurance comes in. That's where a trust comes in, and how you want to control it, right? Like, you don't want to, you may want to leave it to your family, but you may not want your family to have all of the say, because they may run your business into the ground.
Very true.
Right? But you want them to benefit right? You may want them to benefit. You may want your great grandchildren to benefit, but you don't know if they got the mentality or the right mindset that you had to run the business. So you may structure your trust a lot of different ways to protect everybody, to protect the business and protect them at the same time, right? And so you gotta have one eye on that short game, one eye on that long game, as an entrepreneur. Like that's the reality. But to do that, it starts with your mindset. You know what I mean? It really just starts with your mindset and working through those P's, That's what it is. But the tax man, I tell you, the tax man is real, right? I just heard the other day they got to hire like 10,000 people or something at the IRS, because they know people try not to pay taxes. You know what I mean? They do.
They coming.
So they coming. So just do it right, man. Be smart about it. At the end of the day, like you got enough as an entrepreneur dealing with the market and your competitors and your process. Like you don't need that headache. You want to be able to be on solid ground.
So going back to the entrepreneurship thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
For any of our listeners out there that are considering being an entrepreneur and kind of moving forward with their goals or aspirations of being an entrepreneur, what would you say are a few reasons that someone may think are good ideas to become an entrepreneur, but they are actually not good ideas? And then what are some things that someone may have already that it's sort of I think you got it. I think you should go ahead and pursue your goals. Like what are the
the first thing I tell people all the time is a lot of good ideas, other people probably have had them too. So the first thing you should do if you got a good idea is see what's out there. See if somebody else has created it already. Search on Google, search on Amazon, see if that product is out there. See if somebody's doing it in your area. Like the main reason some people start a business and they're probably not going to be successful is because they didn't do any market research on their idea to even see, right? To even see, like, is it even worth it? Right? Exactly. Back to the data. Like your idea sounds great, but in reality, oh yeah, that person did it. That person's doing it. Here's your biggest competitor. They've been doing it for 5 years. Now you got to decide how are you going to be different from that person, right? Or is the market big enough that person is in Baltimore and you can do it in DC, and that may be great. Like you just don't know. You gotta know the data. You gotta research it, right? So that would be step one. Two, I would say you got to be passionate about it, right? You can't half-ass it. You can't, as an entrepreneur, you can't be the one that, it sounds like a great idea. I think I'll do it. I'll throw something together and I'll put it on Etsy and you got to be all in, man. Otherwise, it's just another job, right? Because you got to do the work. You pissed off that you got to do the work. You don't do it on time, and nobody. Eventually, your business is going to win it. You got to have the hustle, right? You got to be all in. I think that's now on the flip side. How do you know you got something good? Certainly, if nobody's doing it. Mm-hmm. Certainly, if you keep having people ask you to do it for them for free, or they'll pay you to do it. That's a good indication that you got some value, right? If you are you got a supply and demand mismatch, meaning there's no supply and a lot of demand, then you golden, right? That means you can charge almost what you want, right? Because the demand is high, supply is low. That's why people keep asking you, like, hey, can you please cook for my barbecue or cook for my homecoming or cook for my whatever, or can you please do my hair? I'll wait for hours. Can you please, and you start to really, you quickly see, well, if the supply was high, why would these people be willing to pay double or to wait 3-4 hours or weeks for a service, right? So you got this supply and demand mismatch. But the vice versa, if you got a whole lot of supply in the market and demand is low, then that's not a good industry to get into. It's just you're not gonna make money because there's too much supply. right? And so you got to know what's your supply demand mix up. What's that ratio for whatever you're selling or services that you're providing. But if you got that a lot of demand, low supply, and you got people pinging you and requesting you, and like you don't got enough time to handle all the customers or people that are interested in your product, that's a great problem to have. That's when you start to know that, you know what, I'm on to something. So I got to do more of this, right? The only thing that outside of those, that if you got something really new, right? You got something that's no one's ever done it. It's not out there, and people don't even know what it is yet, right? Like those type of businesses and products, you just gotta kind of go out on faith, because you don't have any market data, right? Nobody's done it before, right? You know what I mean? When Tesla became Tesla, people thought he was crazy, right? Because when Uber became Uber, they thought he was crazy, right? Everybody, no one said you can never take over the taxi cab industry. Like, they got monopolies and they like the mafia and da 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 da. And now you got 3 or 4 different ride sharing companies, and there are practically no taxis in some cities, right? And so when you got those products that are super disruptive and super innovative, that you really don't have something to compare it to, those you kind of gotta go out on faith, and you gotta do some you to the best you can. Like, that's where those surveys gonna come in. Hey, would you use this product if you had it? If you had this type of shampoo, nothing on the market is like it. It's got some special herb in it or whatever, right? I don't know. Like, you'd be surprised what people come up with. But you gotta understand that there are gonna be some businesses like that. And so, if from audience, if you're listening and you have a product or a service that's just so rare, right? That's a beautiful thing, because that means you're the first one, probably the first one to come up with it, or the first one to put it in motion. It could be golden, but you got to be able to scale it, right? Because being the first to do it, that's how Google becomes Google, right? Now Google is like a verb. Uber is a verb, right? Uber it, Google it, because like they created the category. When people say electric car, everybody just thinks of Tesla, right?
Tesla, that's right.
Because they, even though they wasn't the first, they the ones that really just just took it to a whole another level than what other car companies were doing. And so just keep that in mind. Like, those are the things that I would check as a pulse check, if you will, to say, hey, do I got something good? Do I got something that's like, okay, or I shouldn't even invest my time because somebody's already doing it, right? And why would somebody buy it from me versus buy it from somebody else if I don't have anything to separate myself? What's my competitive advantage? And that's a question that you always got to be asked. Like, what's my competitive advantage in providing this business, right? And so those would be that's how I would look at it.
Also, Bryan, I have another question about that. What do you think about the mindset of some great mentors and some great people have always told me you also have to be willing to fail numerous times in order to get the success that you want. And most people that I've talked to that are very successful in anything that they've done, they've always followed up with a almost catastrophic failure that happened before it, and they were able to adapt or overcome it or learn something from it. But what do you say to that?
I say I have yet to met somebody who's hasn't failed before they won, right? Before they reach their goal, or before they hit that home run, that they didn't get struck out first, right? I don't think I've ever met a person that can really truly say that. Persistence is huge, and that ability to get up, because you're going to get knocked down, right? But those are opportunities for you to grow. You see, you're going to get knocked down whether you like it or not. There's going to be setbacks. Something ain't going to happen right. Your suppliers are going to deliver late. Your website going to crash. somebody gonna say something bad about you on Instagram or give you a bad rating on Yelp. Like there's 1,000 reasons or something, like stuff is gonna happen. But as an entrepreneur, you gotta be able to pick yourself up, learn, adapt, grow, right? And get back in the fight, right? That's that's the key. We like to say you gotta fail forward, man. Like fail forward. Yeah.
Like
when you drop, you gonna fall. Just make sure you fall a little bit forward, right, closer to your goal. Then you're closer. That's fine. You give up where you are and you fall again. You can fall your way to your goal, up to the top. You know, you can fall your way up a hill. Absolutely.
Fall all the way to the top, baby.
That's it.
How'd you get up here?
Right.
I fell.
That's right. I fell all the way up this mofo, you know, and if you look at the greatest people, right, you know, Elon, when you read their stories, right, you'll see they all had moments where they thought it was all gonna crumble, right? They hit rock bottom. They running out of money, and the light's about to get turned off, and at the end of the day, they got back up, they got it done, they got creative. But your mind can grow when you're comfortable, right? If you're comfortable, then you're not getting knocked down. You're not getting knocked around, right? You're not, you know, it's like a Muhammad Ali fight, right? It's not till you start hitting Ali back in the day that then he just start to wake up. You know what I mean? It's the same thing in an entrepreneur. Sometimes you gotta get knocked around a little bit for your inner kind of warrior spirit to come out, your mind to expand and figure out a way to solve this problem in front of you, right? And that's why I tell people, never underestimate yourself, right? Because it's not until you get that pressure, you know, all the pressure it takes to make a diamond, right, out of coal, right? You got to have a lot of pressure put on you to get that diamond out, right? People want the diamond but don't want the pressure. Like that's the problem. People want all the bling and don't want to put in the work, right, to get the bling. They just wanted to appear and say, oh, I just did a little bit and I showed up and I'm rich. No, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. And if it does, I would be very wary about that business and the longevity of that business, right? Because those things typically don't last. They don't last. They don't last. Yep.
That's definitely a true concept. There are people who may spend a lot of time trying to figure out how not to have those faults and failures.
That's right.
And they spend so much time trying to go around them and not experience them that they really end up not doing anything.
That's a hell of a point right there. Hell of a point.
They just sit there plotting and planning and trying to figure out how not to fail. And then years go by.
Yep.
And
they
have not done anything yet.
They move at such a slow pace, right? That they never
or they won't do it at all.
Right? Or they overthink everything. Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta listen. This is the information I got up right now. I'm gonna do the best of what I got. I gotta move forward because sometimes you just gotta move. Otherwise,
you gotta trust yourself.
That's right. You gotta trust yourself. I'm a big believer if you know God put it on your heart to do, and you got the right tools to do it, and the opportunity is presenting itself, you got to take it. Even if the edges are sharp, and you know you may get cut here, you may get cut there, you see your way through it. If you can see your way through it, go for it, right? Go for it. You got
Come on now, Pastor.
Right.
Go for it, man. Yeah, bro. Yeah, but really good question, man. Really good question. People don't think about that, but it's a mind. It goes back to that mindset, man. You got to fail your way. You got to fail your way to the top. But those are just opportunities. You know, those are opportunities for you to grow, and that's when you know you're growing the most. Is when you got knocked down, when you got hit around a little bit, the punches are gonna come, right? And that's the nature of it.
And there's something I want the listeners to I want to kind of go back to something you said, and you touched on it, but I want to make sure the listeners heard what you said about being an entrepreneur and grinding and hustling, right? And working hard and building what you're trying to build. And I say that from a perspective of people assuming to be entrepreneurs because they're tired of working. Like I'm tired of working. I'm gonna open up my own business so I don't have to work as hard because I'm tired of working. I'm tired of working 9 to 5. But when you're an entrepreneur, you work 12 to 12.
That's right.
You work 24 to 24. You work 24 hours a day when it's your business.
From when you awake to when you go to sleep, you're an entrepreneur. Your business don't stop because it's 5 o'clock.
Great point.
There's no clock. Especially in your beginning years, right? Right. Like now ideally you want to build your business so with systems and so that you can, you could be on the beach and your business is running, doing the thing. But in the beginning, it's all you, right? It's all you. And I tell people all the time, in the beginning, an entrepreneur is like being a doctor, right? In the beginning, if the doctor don't show up, nobody's making money, right? I think doctors, this is why they work crazy hours, because they get paid a lot for their time. But if they don't show up, nobody's making money. Even though they have their own quote unquote practice, it's really like a job, right? Because if they don't show up, they trade hours for dollars, right? That's what a job is. You trade hours for dollars. A business is an asset. You invest, you put all this energy and time in the beginning, and it becomes like a machine. Once that machine is going and running, if you set your system up right, it could be independent of your time, right? That's the goal. That's the goal of business ownership, of having an asset that pays you independently of your time. That's the difference between a job. A job is not an asset. While a job put money in your pocket, you have to give it time for it to do that. An asset puts money in your pocket regardless of your time. That is the difference between an asset and a job, right? Your business is supposed to be an asset. You build it so it puts money in your pocket independently of your time, but you have to grow it to that. That's not going to happen.
And that's hard work.
That's the work that you got to do. That takes even more effort than what you do on your job. Right.
And there's no timeline.
That's right.
And there's no timeline.
There's no time on the clock or a date on a calendar that you can say, this is when my business is going to flourish.
That's right. And nobody is telling you, oh, hey, get up, and do this and do that. As an entrepreneur, you decide that. You make that schedule. Right. And so all the blame and the credit goes to the same person. And that's the entrepreneur. Right. And so I think it's a great question. The hustle has got to be there. But to create a business for the sake of being tired of working for somebody else, I think is the wrong decision, right? That just means you just need to find a better job, right? That when somebody tell me I just hate this job, I can't do it, I'm gonna stop. No, that's not a reason to start a business. You need to find a better job, right? You need to find another environment that you're comfortable in. You need to switch professions, do something that you enjoy, right? That don't start a business for the fact that you hate your boss or you hate what you do. Like that's not a reason to start a business.
Right. You should be passionate about something.
You should be following your passion. And if it's just for the job, I say change the job, right? Until you find that passion, right? Or till you actually get to this place that, you know what? I really love this and this is what I want to do. And I'm doing it not because I'm running from the job. I'm doing it because this is what I want to do, right? That's a very different mindset to have. I got any more? What we got? I go all night, bro.
No, man, we're gonna have you back, man, because I want you to touch on a lot of things. I want you to touch on the trust. We haven't even touched on investments yet. We haven't even touched on a lot of different things. So
I tell people all the time, to your point, Trey, right there, we talk a lot about how to make money, but you also got to talk about what to do once you get the money, right? Like once you built your business, you made your money, you did all your expenses, you paid your taxes, right? Now you got this amount of money in your account. What do you do?
We up, baby.
Right?
We up.
What do you do? Right? And then that goes into building generational wealth, building assets. And that comes into, investing into properties and other businesses and equities and crypto and commodities, right? All these,
we got
all
to get
those
on it.
things are critical to, at the end of the day, is building wealth. I mean, being financially free is like
Building
the
wealth,
goal, right? In a generational, right? Financially free.
In a
Right.
generational way, right? And I also, we're gonna have you back. We're gonna want you to talk about that, but we also want to key into just how we've been doing in the last few episodes, speaking about the discipline when it comes to investing, because again, that mindset that we just talked about when it comes to entrepreneurship and people wanting to get that quick return, I want to invest and I need to get this back quickly. I'm putting $1,000 in and I look at it a month later and now I only got $5,000. I'm freaking out. What do I need to do? Having that mindset and that discipline, we definitely want you to get into that and talk about some of those things. So we're definitely glad that you came to the show, man.
Glad to be here, man. This is great.
Yeah, man. So how can the people out there reach out to you, man, if you want to plug anything, or how can people get in contact with you?
Hey, Ryan and I, like I said, we do a lot of workshops. We do a lot of mentorship. We consult as well. The best way to get on me, get to me is through LinkedIn, man. You'll see my profile. Just search for Bryan Swann or Ryan Swann. Connect with us. Shoot us an email, message us from there, and we can connect if need be. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, like, it starts with you. It starts with yourself. You change your mind, you change your life. Like that's just what it is.
Change your mind, change your life.
Yep.
Enough said.